different background here today, and I just want to say I hope everybody had a great holiday season. I haven't posted in a little while due to the holidays, but I hope everyone had a great time over the last 3 weeks since I made a video. I think it may have actually only been 2.5 weeks ago when we broke down the Dalton Varsho trade. But now the Blue Jays have some more updates since then. Only minor updates. They've only really signed some minor league players, and somebody who's back, who we may have not expected to come back, is Drew Hutchinson. So if everybody remembers, Drew Hutchinson pitched for us in 2012. He came up as a rookie, and then in 2016, we traded him halfway through the season to Pittsburgh Pirates, and we got, actually, I forget the guy's name. He ended up being traded to Houston. I always do this. I always forget the guy's name that we traded for. Um, I know I can't remember. We'll find it in this video. But anyways, we have not seen Drew Hutchinson since mid 2016 when we traded him over to the Pirates. And we got some other things to discuss in this video. So let's begin. So this is apparently who the breakout star for the Blue Jays is going to be this coming year. We just traded for him, Eric Swanson. He's 29 years old. Last year, he had a very low ERA of, I believe it was 1.57 ERA. Now, it wasn't a smaller amount of games played. He didn't play that much, and he doesn't have any MLB experience prior to this past year. So there's not a whole lot of data to go off of, but I think it might have been 57 games, which actually is quite a bit, or 58 games, something around there. And again, a pretty low ERA. So the Blue Jays, who traded one of their stars, Teoscar Hernandez, for Eric Swanson, hopefully does have a breakout year. We need somebody in the bullpen to break out. We cannot rely on Jordan Romano anymore as the one guy, and we saw that in the playoffs. He got shaken up after Anthony Bass. So hopefully Eric Swanson does indeed have a breakout season. Then we look at some of the other deals here. So the Blue Jays have announced 5 minor league deals. I believe they're all pitchers, or no, 4 pitchers, and then Rob Brantley, a catcher, which we don't really need at the major league level, so minor league deals fine. And again, Drew Hutchinson, we had him in 2012 when he came as a rookie, 2014, 2015, and 2016 we traded him. So who did we trade Drew Hutchinson for? Drew Hutchinson trade to the Pirates. To the Pirates of the Caribbean. On August 1st, the Blue Jays traded Drew Hutchinson to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Francisco Liriano, Reese McGuire, and Harold Ramirez. That's where we got Reese McGuire. Holy moly, I didn't even realize that. But we got all those guys just for Drew Hutchinson. I mean, let's look at his ERA. Never below 4. I mean, the lowest it was in his time with Blue Jays was 4.48. Now, I actually don't really think that he was a bad fifth starter. I think he gave us some good days. Now, obviously, these numbers don't look as good, but over 32 games, 4.48 ERA in 2014 is not bad at all. And, he started for us 28 times back in 2015, a 5.57 ERA. But you know what? Considering how strong that rotation was back in 15, I believe it was R.A. Dickey, Marco Estrada, Walker, no, what was his name? I can't remember his name. But we had a couple old guys. Let's take a look. I can't remember anyone's name today. Marco Estrada, R.A. Dickey. What was his name? Came from Chicago. Mark Burley. That's who I'm thinking of. Mark Burley. We also had R.A. Dickey, Marco Estrada, Drew Hutchinson, Liam Hendricks back in the day. That was great. Daniel Norris, David Price we traded for it. Marcus Stroman. How could I forget Marcus Stroman? We had Marcus Stroman. We had Ryan DePera back then. Wow, we had Todd Redmond. I remember when there was conversations between him and Brett Cecil becoming our 5th starter. That was before we got Marcus Stroman up. Wolf Schultz, I don't even really remember him. Aaron Sanchez, that's right, he used to be a starter for us. So we had a pretty solid rotation back in 2015. So in 2016 is when Marco Estrada really broke out. So really, Drew Hutchinson as a fifth starter is not bad at all when you think about the fact that we had Marcus Stroman in his rookie years, Aaron Sanchez in his prime, apparently for only a few years. We had Mark Burley, we had R.A. Dickey. Like it was not a bad rotation at all in 2015. And even before the trades, before we got our tighter bullpen and R.A. Dickey, or excuse me, and David Price. And now let's read the Sportsnet article briefly on making sense of Blue Jays second base options for 2023. So here we got the Blue Jays roster building efforts for 2023 season haven't been completed, but safe to say the heavy lifting is done. If we think about what's been done so far, we traded Teoscar Hernandez for Eric Swanson. We signed Matt Donnelly as our bench coach. We What else did we do? We traded Teoscar Hernandez, or sorry, we traded Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno for Dalton Varsho. We signed Chris Bassett, and there was something else that we did. What was the other trade or signing? I really can't remember anything today, guys. I'm really sorry. What have the Blue Jays done so far? Don Manley, they got Eric Swanson, they got Chris Bassett, and they traded for Dalton Varsho. What was the other thing that the Blue Jays have done this offseason? Yes, how could I forget? Signed Kevin Kiermaier to a 1 year, $9 million deal. So, anyways, the outfield has been overhauled and the catching surplus has been sorted. The rotation and bullpens have been bolstered, even if there's still some depth moves to make on both counts. The infield has been left untouched, but three of its positions are being held down by three possible All Stars. It's the fourth spot on the infield where the most intrigue on the roster resides now. Whit Merrifield finished 2022 strong. Kevin Biggio and Santiago Espinal are natural platoon bats who figure to get some run and prospect as embargo in the ultimate wild card. The end result may be a boring mix and match based on hyper-specific matchup hunting and playing the hot hand. Injuries could also take a lot of decision making out of Blue Jays' hands. Even so, for a team that will be on a low spring training positional battle, second base is the closest thing the Blue Jays are likely to see. Here's a rundown of the options. Run it back to Whit Merrifield, high average. Then we also have so these are the big numbers here that we're looking at between Gavin Biggio, Santiago Espinal, and Whit Merrifield. And obviously, Gavin Biggio being a little bit higher because he's a left-handed hitter. And yeah, this is versus right-handed pitching. Santiago Espinal, not too bad. And again, Whit Merrifield, not so bad. Pretty similar numbers, but Gavin Biggio just being that slightly better. The Barker wild card. So let me see. Barker so far from a proven commodity that's possibly green his name for the first time in this article. That's valid considering he's a former sixth-round pick who hasn't spent any time at the top of the prospects. Despite his lack of pedigree, Barker looked like a piece of the Blue Jays' future in 2022, moving all the way from single A to triple A in his age 22 season. So yeah, I've never heard this guy before. Ben Nicholson Smith has. That's good. And then we also have this one rumor I just want to take a look at quickly before we go. Is the Toronto Blue Jays apparently they were offered a trade from the Cubs or somebody is making this suggestion. I guess it's not actually something that was truly suggested in the front offices, but somebody here on Chicago Cubs side. Fansided believes that a good trade here would be Matt Chapman for Adbert Zoldsole. I can't say his name properly, I believe. I'm sorry if I have. You can correct me in the comments, and Nelson Velasquez. So I foresee the Cubs having no problem moving either two, especially if they can extend Chapman and keep him in a Cubs uniform for at least 4 to 5 years. Granted, the Cubs will still stay clear if they don't see why they can extend them, but if they can, he's one of the more valuable options that fills a big hole for the Cubs moving forward. If the Cubs don't land him via trade, I expect them to be circled toward the top of the wish list next winter. However, it makes more sense to grab and lock him up now to avoid him testing the market and better compete in 2023. So I know that the Cubs have done a lot so far this offseason and that there were even rumored to get Carlos Correa. They may even still get him depending on what happens with the Mets. They also went out and signed Dansby Swanson to a bunch of years and a bunch of money. They got Cody Bellinger on a $17.5 million deal. They got Marcus Stroman last year. I believe they made some other moves. I can't remember all of them this year as well as last year, but they also did lose their best catcher, and he went to the St. Louis Cardinals, which is obviously one of the rivals since we're in the same division. And I just think that maybe Chicago Cubs fans have seen a lot of nicer things over the last couple of years, despite some really awful seasons. But I really just don't think the Blue Jays make this trade. I mean, I think it's the other way the Blue Jays might try to make this trade, but receiving these two prospects, I really don't think they're ready to do that. I think that they want to get it this last year out of Chapman and decide this year whether they're going to extend them or let them test free agency. But I really don't think the Blue Jays would take this trade. But just for the sake of interest, I want to see who these guys are. So let's go over to Chicago Cubs website. MLB.com. So we look at their roster. We'll look at the 40-man roster. So let's take a look at Adbert Azole. So last year he played in 6 games with a 3.38 ERA. He had 19 strikeouts. He's played 3 years already, actually 4 years, almost the Chicago Cubs. He only has 2 years left before he becomes free agent. And, look, like runners and scoring visits over 9 innings, or excuse me, runs scored over 9 innings, 7.30, 3.38, 4.73. So in 2022, he did better, but 2020 was his best year. Win percentage was 500 back in 2020, 500 in 2019, 278 in 2021, and 667 in 2022. But let's, like his ERA career 4.48, and that's over 9 wins, 16 losses, and 45 games. So he hasn't played that much, but he still has either 2 years left or maybe 3 years left. I don't know how many games. Game started 2019, 2 and 4, only in 2020, only in 4. I can't even speak. Sorry, 4 games in 2020, so not that much, but nonetheless, it's not great stuff. I mean, you're taking a gamble on signing this guy. And then the other one was the outfielder, which, I mean, we could use another outfielder at this point. Um, let's go back. So he's already 24. He's going to be 25 this year. And he only has 6 home runs. Well, that was last year, so he doesn't have a lot of power. His average 205. He's a rookie, so I guess there's hope that he comes up by 77 games. He had 6 home runs, 7 doubles, 3 triples. Total bases 69 over 77 games. I guess, that's really not Well, no, that's not on base times. Like that's not how many games he got on base. That's just not total number of bases. And when you think about it, 6 home runs times four, well, you're already looking at 24 bases there. Then you have three triples, so you're looking at another five, so that's 35, and seven doubles, which is 14, so that's already at 49. So we're looking at 49. So we're looking at 20 hits. So I mean, like we're looking at 20 singles. Like that's 20 plus 7, 27, 30, and 6. So we're at 36. Got 36 hits in 77 games. So, like, if you have three at bats a game, more or less, I mean, that's 200 hitter. Like, that's, overall power slug is 659. Like, you really think, I didn't check the age of the other guy, but this is just, that deal's never going to happen. Not like, a lot will argue that the Blue Jays front office got fleeced with Steos Hernandez and then Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno in the respective trades. But I mean, this guy is already going to be coming 28 this year. Like, I really don't think this trade is getting done. Yes, I know Matt Chapman, I believe, is already 29. Let's take a look. Yeah, he's already 29, so he's going to be turning 30 this year. I mean, like, yeah, he's a little bit older than the other two guys there, but come on, that's just a ridiculous trade. Like, we go to trade value here. Team one will be Blue Jays. Select team. Really? Just like team two, maybe? Here we go. Cubs. I'll if I type here. And the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays, we're going to look for Chapman. Chapman. So obviously Matt Chapman being 29 and being close to 30, obviously being 29 and being his last year of his contract. Obviously, he's not going to have a very high value, but let's take a look at these other guys. So, well, I don't know, 13.1 trade value. And then let's take a look at what's the other guy's name? Nelson Velasquez. So going to Trade Simulator, the Blue Jays would actually get a better value for trading Matt Chapman to the Cubs for these two players here. I don't think this is 100% accurate at all, and I don't think this trade gets done whatsoever. I really do think that this is kind of a crazy trade scenario. I wish the Chicago Cubs luck, and they obviously have a very patient fan base, but I don't know to make that trade idea that's just disrespectful to Matt Chapman and the Blue Jays organization. But I mean, I guess we'll see. I highly doubt that trade is going to be done. Why would the Blue Jays trade away Matt Chapman after trading a bunch of prospects now? or last year rather, it doesn't make sense to give him up now for a couple of low-level MLB ready players, if you can really call them that. So yeah, I don't think that trade's being done, but I guess we'll have to see. I don't think the Blue Jays are going to make any more big deals. I really don't think so. I think, they're like a tinkering men, people I should say. It's that they're very much, they only deal with a very small amount at once. They don't go like Steve Cohen of the Mets and just go and spend all their money. They only fix tiny little things that they can. Obviously the outfield's very different now, but I just think that their main offseason goal is done. They signed a new starting pitcher, they got a new relief pitcher, they got a very good defensive outfielder, and then they got a second good defensive outfielder. They're both left-handed. So they basically done what they wanted, which is run prevention. And I think the Blue Jays are better now than they were last year. Obviously people are upset that we don't have Gurriel Jr. anymore or Teoscar Hernandez. But listen, they were on the last year's of our contract, and if we want to re-sign I can't even speak today, Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero, then we need to save money where we can, because Rogers is not going to pay a lot of money for this Blue Jays organization where they don't see fit. So we'll have to see what happens after this year, and we'll see what happens for the rest of this offseason. I think it's going to be pretty quiet. We might see more names like Drew Hutchison kind of come up here and there. Again, very minor deals. But that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to stay in touch or up to date with more MLB news, or particularly Blue Jays news, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss out. See you guys in the next video.